The stars looked cold and distant through the bridge windows of the UHS Defiant. Captain Jake Morrison stood with his hands behind his back, watching the empty space ahead. His ship moved slowly through the Vega sector, far from Earth and the safety of human space. Jake was 52 years old with gray hair and tired eyes. He had been fighting wars in space for 25 years. His uniform was clean, but old, just like his ship. The Defiant looked worn down from the outside. Paint was missing in some places. Metal patches covered old battle damage. Anyone who saw it would think it was ready for the scrapyard. The bridge was quiet except for the soft hum of computers. Amy Rodriguez sat at the tactical station, watching her screens. She was 34 and had served under Jake for 8 years. Her brown hair was pulled back tight, and her dark eyes never missed anything. She was the best weapons officer Jake had ever worked with. "Captain," Amy said without looking up from her console, "long-range sensors are picking up something big. Really big." Jake walked over to look at her screen. Thousands of red dots filled the display. Each dot was an enemy ship. He counted them, quickly in his head. More than 3,000 vessels were heading their way. "Zephyrians," Jake said quietly. "The whole Imperial fleet by the looks of it." The crew on the bridge looked worried. Everyone knew about the Zephyrians. They were tall aliens with blue scales and 4 arms. They had been conquering planets for 50 years. Their ships were huge and powerful. A single Zephyrian dreadnought was 3 times bigger than the Defiant. Danny Chen turned from the communication station. He was young, only 26, but he was good at his job. "Sir, they're sending a message, audio and visual." "Put it on the main screen," Jake ordered. The screen flickered and showed the bridge of a massive alien warship. The creature sitting in the command chair was 7 feet tall with bright blue scales. 4 powerful arms rested on the chair. Yellow eyes looked directly at Jake with obvious disdain. This was Admiral Kethvar, commander of the Zephyrian Imperial Fleet. The alien's mouth opened, showing sharp white teeth. When he spoke, his voice was deep and rough. "I am Admiral Kethvar of the Zephyrian Empire. You are in our way, human." Jake stepped forward so the alien could see him clearly. "I am Captain Jake Morrison of the United Human Federation. This sector is under our protection." Kethvar threw back his head and laughed. The sound was harsh and mocking. Other Zephyrians on his bridge joined in the laughter. They pointed at their screens showing the tiny human ship. "One ship?" Kethvar said when he stopped laughing. "One pathetic little ship thinks it can stop the Imperial fleet? Human, you must be insane." The alien leaned forward in his chair. His yellow eyes gleamed with cruel amusement. "I have 3,047 warships. Each one could destroy your rust bucket without trying. You have what, 200 crew members? My smallest ship carries more warriors than that." Jake remained calm. His expression did not change. "Admiral, I'm giving you one chance. Turn your fleet around. Leave this sector and never come back. This is your only warning." The laughter from the Zephyrian bridge was even louder this time. Some of the aliens were holding their sides, laughing so hard they could barely breathe. Kethvar wiped tears from his yellow eyes. "Warning?" The Admiral gasped between laughs. "You are warning me. Human, I have destroyed entire star systems. I have burned 100 worlds. Your species is nothing but soft meat that thinks it can fight real warriors." Other voices joined in from the alien bridge. "Kill the humans!" Someone shouted, "Show them what happens to insects who challenge the Empire." Kethvar raised one of his 4 hands for silence. His crew stopped laughing and listened. "Human captain, you have amused me. That is worth something. I will make your death quick as a reward for the entertainment." Jake looked around his bridge. Amy was ready at her weapons station. Danny had his hands on the communications controls. Tony Garrett, the chief engineer, watched from the back of the bridge. His face was serious but not afraid. Lisa Park stood at the weapons console next to Amy. She was checking her systems one last time. All of them looked calm. They had trained for this moment for years. They knew what their ship could really do, even if the aliens did not. "Admiral," Jake said in a steady voice. You should have taken my warning seriously. Kethvar's laughter stopped. His yellow eyes narrowed. Are you threatening me, human? You and your ancient ship against my entire fleet? Not threatening, Jake replied. Just telling you the truth. You have no idea what you are about to face. The alien admiral's scales darkened with anger. Enough! You bore me now. Prepare to die, human. Your ship will be target practice for my gunners. Jake turned to Amy. Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez, activate the Prometheus protocol. Amy's fingers moved across her console. Lights began flashing, all over the bridge. The ship's computers started working faster. Deep in the engine room, systems that had been sleeping came to life. Kethvar watched the human ship on his screen. Nothing seemed to be happening. The Defiant looked the same as before, old, worn, and helpless. What is this Prometheus protocol? The Admiral asked with a sneer. Some kind of human prayer before you die? Jake smiled for the first time since the conversation started. It was not a friendly smile. You will find out soon enough, Admiral, but I will tell you one thing. When this is over, you are going to wish you had listened to me. The alien's forearms gestured dismissively. Human arrogance knows no limits. Very well. If you want to die like a warrior instead of running like a coward, I will grant you that honor. Kethvar turned to his crew. All ships, attack formation. We will make this quick. The human colonies beyond this sector are waiting for us. Jake watched as thousands of enemy ships began moving into position. They formed a wall of metal and weapons that stretched across space. Each ship was bristling with guns and missile launchers. The Zephyrian fleet looked unstoppable. Sir, Amy said quietly. All systems are green. We are ready. Jake nodded. Then let us show them what humans can do when we stop playing nice. The Defiant hung in space, looking small and helpless against the massive alien fleet. But inside the ship, power levels were climbing to levels that should have been impossible. Weapon systems were coming online that no other species in the galaxy had ever seen. The real battle was about to begin. The Zephyrian fleet moved forward like a slow wave of death. 3,000 ships spread across space in perfect formation. Admiral Kethvar sat in his command chair, watching the small human vessel on his screen. He expected this to be over. In minutes. First wave, launch fighters, the Admiral ordered. Show these humans what real power looks like. 500 small fighter craft shot out from the larger ships. They moved fast, leaving bright trails behind them. Each fighter carried enough weapons to destroy a city. Together they could level an entire planet. On the bridge of the Defiant, Jake Morrison watched the approaching fighters with calm eyes. His crew worked at their stations without panic. They had practiced this moment many times. Captain, Amy, Rodriguez said from her tactical station. Enemy fighters are closing fast, 500 contacts. Let them come closer, Jake replied. Wait for my signal. The Zephyrian fighters formed attack groups as they raced toward the human ship. Their pilots were confident. They had destroyed many enemy vessels before. This old human ship would be easy prey. Inside the Defiant, deep changes were happening. The ship's hull began to shift and move. Metal plates slid apart to reveal hidden compartments. What looked like an old cargo ship was transforming into something else entirely. Tony Garrett stood in the engine room, his hands moving over glowing controls. The chief engineer was 45 years old and had worked on ships his whole life. He had never seen anything like the Defiant's true power source. Artificial star is online, Tony announced over the ship's communication system. Power levels are climbing past normal limits. The Defiant's engines flared to life with brilliant white light. The energy output was impossible for a ship of its size. Other species would need a ship 10 times larger to generate this much power. But humans had learned to think differently about space technology. Captain, Lisa Park called from the weapons station. All defensive systems are ready. Point defense grid is active. Jake nodded. Fire when ready. The Zephyrian fighters were only a few kilometers away when the human ship revealed its true nature. Thousands of small weapon barrels emerged from the Defiant's hull. They looked like tiny needles, but each one was a precision railgun. The point defense grid fired all at once. the space around the Defiant filled with hypersonic projectiles moving at incredible speed. The tungsten rounds were smaller than bullets, but traveled so fast they hit with the force of bombs. The first wave of Zephyrian fighters simply vanished. One moment they were racing toward their target, the next moment they were clouds of glowing debris. The entire attack force was destroyed in less than 10 seconds. Admiral Kethvar stared at his tactical display in shock. All 500 fighters showed as destroyed. "Impossible," he whispered. "No ship has that much defensive firepower." His tactical officer, a young Zephyrian named Vex Khan, checked his instruments twice. "Admiral, the readings are correct. All fighters are gone. The human ship used some kind of mass driver weapons." "Mass drivers?" Kethvar's yellow eyes narrowed. "Primitive kinetic weapons? How could they destroy our fighters so quickly?" What the Admiral did not understand was that human weapons technology had evolved far beyond what other species thought possible. While aliens focused on energy weapons and plasma cannons, humans had perfected the art of throwing things very, very fast. "Second wave," Kethvar ordered, his voice angry now. "Send the heavy cruisers, 50 ships, full attack formation." The massive Zephyrian cruisers moved forward. Each one was a kilometer long and carried enough firepower to destroy a small moon. Their blue hulls gleamed in the starlight as they approached the human vessel. On the Defiant's bridge, Jake watched the approaching enemy ships without concern. "Commander Park, prepare main batteries." Lisa Park's fingers danced over her controls. The ship's primary weapons had been hidden under false hull plating. Now they emerged like the fangs of a sleeping beast. 6 massive cannon barrels extended from the Defiant's hull. "Main guns ready, Captain," Lisa reported. "Tungsten penetrator rounds loaded. Fire at will." The Defiant's main weapon spoke with a voice like thunder. The railgun cannons fired solid tungsten rounds accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed. The projectiles were not much bigger than a person, but they carried the kinetic energy of nuclear weapons. The first Zephyrian cruiser took a direct hit in its center section. The tungsten round punched through the ship's shields like they were made of paper. It passed through the hull, the armor, and everything inside before exploding out the other side. The cruiser broke in half and exploded. "Target destroyed," Lisa announced, switching to next target. The Defiant's guns fired again and again. Each shot destroyed a Zephyrian cruiser. The alien ships tried to return fire, but their energy weapons could not penetrate the human ship's adaptive shielding. The shields absorbed the incoming energy and actually grew stronger. In 30 seconds, all 50 Zephyrian cruisers were either destroyed or drifting helplessly in space. The human ship had not taken a single point of damage. Admiral Kethvar felt fear for the first time in his life. His species had conquered half the galaxy using superior firepower and numbers, but this one human ship was destroying his fleet like it was nothing. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "Our ships are larger, our weapons are more powerful. How can they be losing?" His science officer, an older Zephyrian named Tech Moore, studied the sensor readings. "Admiral, the human ship is using technology we do not understand. Their weapons fire solid projectiles at impossible speeds. Their shields seem to adapt to our energy weapons." "What kind of shields adapt to weapons fire?" "Unknown, Admiral. But that is not the strangest thing. Look at the power readings from their ship." Kethvar studied the display. The numbers made no sense. The human ship was generating more power than some small stars. This must be an error. "No error, Admiral. They have some kind of power source that should not be possible." Danny Chen intercepted more Zephyrian communications from his station on the Defiant. "Captain, they are calling for reinforcements. The Third Fleet is being redirected here." Jake smiled. "How many ships in their Third Fleet?" 2,000 vessels, sir. They will arrive in 20 minutes. Amy Rodriguez looked up from her tactical station. "Sir, that will give us over 5,000 enemy ships to deal with." "Good," Jake replied. "Let them all come. It will save us the trouble of hunting them down later." The crew of the Defiant worked with quiet efficiency. They had known this moment would come eventually. Humanity had been preparing for a war like this for decades. Other species thought humans were weak because they avoided large battles. They did not understand that humans preferred to end fights quickly and decisively. "Captain," Tony Garrett called from engineering, "the artificial star is running at full power. All systems are performing beyond specifications." "Excellent. Prepare for Phase 2 of the Prometheus Protocol." On the Zephyrian flagship, Admiral Keithvar tried to understand what he was facing. His species had fought many wars, but never against an enemy like this. The humans used tactics and technology that made no sense according to everything he knew about space warfare. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "the Third Fleet has arrived. Admiral Zextor is requesting orders." Keithvar looked at the tactical display. His combined fleet now numbered over 5,000 ships. Surely that would be enough to destroy one human vessel, no matter how advanced it was. "All ships, full attack formation," he ordered. "Converge on the human ship from all directions. They cannot fight us all at once." But as the massive alien fleet began to move, Jake Morrison prepared to show them just how wrong they were. The real battle was about to begin. The combined Zephyrian fleet spread across space like a deadly cloud. Over 5,000 warships surrounded the single human vessel. Admiral Keithvar felt more confident now. No ship could fight this many enemies at once. "All vessels, open fire," the Admiral commanded. "Destroy that human ship." Thousands of energy beams lanced through space toward the Defiant. Plasma cannons, laser batteries, and particle weapons all fired at the same time. The light was so bright it could be seen from nearby star systems. On the human ship's bridge, Jake Morrison watched the incoming fire without fear. "Major Sullivan, show them how we dance." Kate Sullivan sat at the pilot station with cables connected to her head. The neural interface linked her mind directly to the ship's navigation systems. She was 31 years old and the best pilot in the human fleet. The Defiant began to move in ways that seemed impossible. The ship twisted and turned through space like a fighter craft, even though it was a kilometer long. Kate's enhanced reflexes and the ship's advanced systems worked together perfectly. The alien weapons fire passed harmlessly around the human ship. Energy beams that should have hit their target struck empty space instead. The Defiant moved too fast and too unpredictably for the enemy gunners to track. "How are they moving like that?" Admiral Keithvar demanded. "No ship that size should be able to maneuver so quickly." His science officer Techmore studied the readings again. "Admiral, their inertial dampening system must be far beyond anything we have seen. The crew should be crushed by those acceleration forces." What the aliens did not know was that humans had solved the problems of high-speed space combat decades ago. The Defiant's crew felt no effects from the violent maneuvers. They worked at their stations as if the ship was sitting still. "Adaptive, shields at full power," Amy Rodriguez reported. "Enemy fire is being absorbed and redirected." The Defiant's revolutionary shielding system took the energy from alien weapons and fed it back into the ship's own power grid. The more the enemies shot at them, the stronger the human ship became. But Jake Morrison was not content to just dodge enemy fire. "Commander Park, begin firing Sequence Alpha. Show them what real weapons look like." Lisa Park activated the ship's main weapon systems. The Defiant's hull opened in dozens of places. Hidden weapon ports revealed guns that no alien species had ever seen before. The first salvo was kinetic rounds like before, but these were different. The tungsten projectiles were larger and moved even faster. They punched through Zephyrian shields and armor like the aliens were made of cardboard. 12 enemy dreadnoughts exploded in the first 10 seconds. The massive alien ships, each one capable of destroying a planet, were torn apart by simple metal projectiles moving at incredible speed. "Switch to plasma charges," Jake ordered. The Defiant's weapons cycled to a different type of ammunition. Superheated plasma contained in magnetic fields shot out from the human ship. When they hit enemy vessels, the plasma burned through hull. Metal like acid. 20 more alien ships died in seconds. "Now gravitational warheads," Jake said calmly. Lisa Park smiled as she loaded the most advanced weapons in humanity's arsenal. These were the secret weapons that other species did not even know existed. The gravitational warheads looked like normal missiles, but they carried devices that could bend space and time itself. When they exploded near enemy ships, they created tiny black holes that lasted for just a few seconds. The effect was devastating. Entire squadrons of Zephyrian vessels were crushed instantly as space itself folded around them. Ships that had survived hundreds of battles were compressed into balls of twisted metal. Dr. Rachel Turner, the ship's science officer, watched the weapon's performance from her station. She was 42 years old and had helped design some of the Defiant's advanced systems. "Gravitational weapons are performing perfectly, Captain," she reported. "We are literally warping space-time around their ships." Admiral Kethvar watched, his fleet die with growing horror. In less than 5 minutes, he had lost over 1,000 ships. The human vessel moved through his formations like a predator, hunting helpless prey. "This is impossible," he whispered. "One ship cannot do this much damage." But the Defiant was not finished. The ship's hull began to change shape again. Sections separated from the main body, each piece becoming an independent warship. The modular design allowed the human ship to split into 5 separate vessels. Each section had its own weapons, shields, and engines. Now the aliens faced 5 enemies instead of 1. Kate Sullivan controlled the main section, while other crew members took command of the separated pieces. Amy Rodriguez piloted one section through the heart of the Zephyrian formation. Her weapon system switched between different types of fire as she engaged multiple targets. Tony Garrett commanded another section from the engine room. The chief engineer used his knowledge of alien technology to target enemy weak points. His section's weapons seemed to know exactly where to hit for maximum damage. The separated sections of the Defiant coordinated their attacks perfectly. They moved like parts of a single organism, supporting each other and creating overlapping fields of fire. Admiral Kethvar tried desperately to find a weakness in the human attack. "All ships, ramming speed," he ordered. "If we cannot destroy them, with weapons we will crush them with our hulls." Hundreds of Zephyrian ships accelerated toward the human vessels. The aliens hoped that mass and momentum would succeed where weapons had failed, but the humans had planned for this too. Each section of the Defiant generated its own gravitational field. As the alien ships approached, the artificial gravity caught them and used their own speed against them. Zephyrian vessels slammed into each other instead of hitting their targets. The gravitational fields twisted their approach vectors, turning their ramming attacks into collisions with their own fleet. "Sir," Danny Chen called from his communication station, "I am intercepting alien command frequencies. They are calling for full retreat." Jake Morrison shook his head. "Too late for that. They had their chance to leave peacefully." The battle continued for another 10 minutes. The 5 sections of the Defiant moved through the alien fleet like sharks among fish. Every weapon system worked perfectly. Every tactical maneuver succeeded. The ship's most amazing feature activated during the final phase of the battle. Hidden manufacturing systems began building new weapons in real time. The Defiant collected metal and resources from destroyed enemy ships and turned them into additional ammunition. Lisa Park watched in amazement as her weapon supplies actually increased during the fight. "Captain, we are building new missiles faster than we can fire them." "Good," Jake replied. "Make sure we have enough firepower to finish this." The Zephyrian fleet that had seemed so powerful an hour ago was now scattered wreckage floating in space. Of the 5,000 ships that had attacked the Defiant, fewer than 300 remained intact. Admiral Kethvar stared at his tactical display in shock. His mighty fleet was gone. The human ship had destroyed everything with weapons and tactics. He could not understand. "Admiral," his communications officer said quietly, "the remaining ships are requesting permission to retreat." Kethvar looked at the small human ship on his screen. It had reformed into a single vessel and was moving toward his flagship. The alien admiral finally understood the truth. He had not been fighting a ship. He had been fighting the future. The Defiant moved slowly through the wreckage of the Zephyrian fleet. Twisted metal and debris floated everywhere. What had once been 5,000 proud warships was now just scrap drifting in space. Admiral Kethvar sat alone on his flagship's bridge. Most of his crew was dead. His mighty ship was damaged and barely able to move. Only 230 Zephyrian vessels remained from the greatest fleet his empire had ever assembled. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the human ship, looking at the destruction around them. His crew had performed perfectly. Not one person on the Defiant had been injured. Their ship showed no damage at all. "Captain," Amy Rodriguez reported from her station, "all enemy vessels have stopped firing. Most are trying to retreat." "Let them run for now," Jake replied. "But first I want to talk to their admiral." Danny Chen opened a communication channel to the Zephyrian flagship. The main screen showed Admiral Kethvar sitting in his damaged command chair. The proud alien warrior looked broken and defeated. "Admiral," Jake said in a calm voice, "do you want to surrender or shall we finish this?" Kethvar looked at the human captain with new understanding. His yellow eyes no longer showed arrogance or anger. Now they showed fear and respect. "How?" the alien whispered. "How did one ship do this? We had the largest fleet in the galaxy. Our weapons were powerful. Our ships were strong. How did you destroy us so easily?" Jake walked closer to the screen. "You made a mistake, Admiral. You thought humans fight like other species. You expected us to build big fleets and have long battles. That is not how we do things." The human captain gestured toward his bridge crew. "We do not rely on numbers or size. We rely on thinking better than our enemies. Every system on this ship was designed to multiply our effectiveness." Tony Garrett spoke up from the engineering station. "Your ships were built to look impressive. Our ship was built to win wars." Admiral Kethvar shook his head slowly. "But your technology, those weapons, how do you have such advanced systems?" Dr. Rachel Turner answered the question. "We study everything, Admiral. We learn from every species we meet. We take their best ideas and make them better. Then we combine technologies in ways no one else thinks of." "The gravitational weapons," Kethvar said quietly. "I have never seen anything like them." "Because you think of weapons as things that destroy," Jake replied. "We think of weapons as tools that solve problems. Your problem was that you had too many ships. Our weapons solved that problem." Lisa Park looked up from her weapons console. "Every weapon system on this ship can change its function during battle. Our computers learn from each shot and improve the next one." Kate Sullivan disconnected from the neural interface and turned to face the screen. "Your ships moved in predictable patterns. Our ship adapts to any situation in real time." The Zephyrian admiral was beginning to understand. "You built a ship that thinks." "We built a ship that thinks like humans," Jake corrected. "That is why you could not defeat it. You were not just fighting our technology. You were fighting our way of thinking." Kethvar looked around his destroyed bridge. "My empire will not believe this. 5,000 ships destroyed by one human vessel. They will think I am lying. They will believe it," Jake said firmly. "Because you are going to tell them exactly what happened here. You are going to warn them to stay away from human space." The alien admiral straightened in his chair. "And if they do not listen?" Jake's expression became cold and hard. "Then we will send more ships like this one. And next time, we will not give any warnings." Danny Chen intercepted a transmission from the surviving Zephyrian ships. "Captain, they are asking their admiral for orders." Kethvar looked at his tactical display. Less than 5% of his fleet remained. Those ships were damaged and barely spaceworthy. His proud empire's greatest military force had been crushed in less than 2 hours. "All ships," the admiral said over his fleet communications, "retreat to hyperspace. Emergency jump to the homeworld." The remaining Zephyrian vessels began moving away from the battle area. Their engines glowed as they prepared to jump to faster than light speed. "Admiral," Jake called before the alien could end the transmission, "remember what happened here today. Tell your leaders that humanity does not seek war, but when war comes, to us we finish it quickly." Kethvar nodded slowly. "I will tell them. I will make sure they understand." "Good. And Admiral, if any Zephyrian ship enters human space again, there will be no warnings. There will be no talking. There will only be destruction." The alien ships disappeared into hyperspace, leaving the Defiant alone among the wreckage. Jake turned to his crew with a small smile. Well done, everyone. Outstanding work. Amy Rodriguez ran a final scan of the battle area. Captain, we recovered enough raw materials from the destroyed ships to build ammunition for 10 more battles. This size. Tony Garrett checked his engineering systems. Artificial Star is running perfectly. All weapon systems are at full capacity. The ship is ready for anything. Jake walked to the navigation station. Kate, set course for home. I think we have made our point here. 3 days later, the surviving Zephyrian ships arrived at their empire's capital world. Admiral Kethvar stood before the High Council, the governing body of his species. The 12 council members listened in shocked silence as he described the battle. Impossible, declared First Counselor Vex Prime. No single ship could destroy our entire fleet. Kethvar played the recorded sensor data from the battle. The council members watched as their mighty warships were systematically destroyed by the small human vessel. The humans fight differently than any species we have encountered, the Admiral explained. They do not rely on superior numbers, they rely on superior thinking. Second Counselor Tech Zara studied the recordings carefully. These weapons systems, this technology, how advanced are these humans? More advanced than we realized, Kethvar replied. And they are just getting started. That one ship was probably not their best. It might have been just an average vessel in their fleet. The council members looked at each other with growing concern. The Zephyrian Empire had conquered dozens of worlds by using overwhelming force, but force had not worked against the humans. First Counselor Vex Prime made the decision. Draft a message to the human government. We propose a non-aggression treaty. We will not enter their space if they do not enter ours. And the human colonies we plan to attack? Asked Third Counselor Morcon. Forget them, Vex Prime replied firmly. We do not want to face more ships like that one. News of the battle spread quickly throughout the galaxy. The story was told on 100 worlds in a dozen languages. Always, it ended the same way. They laughed at one ship, then died fast. Military academies across the galaxy began teaching new lessons about human warfare. The basic rule was simple: never underestimate humans based on the size of their forces. The Defiant returned to Earth as heroes. But Jake Morrison knew this was just the beginning. Other hostile species would test humanity's defenses. They would learn the same lesson the Zephyrians had learned. Humans did not start fights. But when fights came to them, they ended them quickly and completely. That was the human way of war.